We could do a cringy like both at the same time.
Welcome you back. Me to you, youth, me, Australia.
I think we got the intro there.
All right, now we're gonna do this. Ready?
Okay, ready?
I'll start. Ready?
Yep.
Welcome
Back
to
the
Youth
Australia.
Podcast.
Woo!
Yeah. That's so cringe. And welcome back.
Oh, welcome back, everyone. It feels so good to be back on a Zoom call with this wonderful man right here.
I was just saying to Joel before we started, I'm getting so nervous because it's been so damn long, and I'm so keen.
Right.
So keen.
Trying to get like that podcast voice back, like good day and welcome back to the Youth Australia podcast.
That podcast voice, huh? I ain't got a podcast voice to just send today.
Oh, 100%. So our last podcast was a while. When was it actually?
I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know.
Anyway, it was a while.
But also
it was a while ago, and we thought today we'd like to talk with you guys about kind of what's been going on with Youth Australia, why we've been absent so long, both on the podcast side and on the server side and other things. Because there's been a lot going on behind the scenes that you guys probably don't know about. So we thought we'd
definitely
just share it with you guys.
For sure, yeah. It's just check that it's been 6 months since our last upload on the YouTube channel for the podcast. Oh, but
Feels
basically,
rough.
yeah, we've all just been through a lot. It started off with some of us moving homes and new jobs coming, and uni starting, and from there we just couldn't really get the ball rolling. It was just a real struggle for us. We're here to say that that's not happening anymore. We're back, and it's going to be hopefully a weekly thing again.
Hopefully,
we might skip every now and then, but we'll try and be more consistent than last time because we really dropped the ball. We've had this talk before. We've said, hey, we're back, we're going to keep it going again, and then we just stopped. Like, it didn't even take us long. It was like 4 episodes, and then we just kind of dropped it again.
Yep.
No more of that. We're going to be a bit more committed now. That's on us.
100%.
Here we are.
So for those of you who weren't aware, we had some scheduling problems when it came to the podcast. I lived about 2.5 hours away from where the rest of the other guys who are doing the podcast lived. And so that was a lot on me to get there, organize. And then also on top of that, a lot of the planning of the podcast, all the editing, filming, running the sound gear was also on me as well. So I had to organize that and bring all that. And he
did an amazing job at that, by the way. He did.
Oh, thank you.
It was just heaps.
But yeah, so I've started uni at the beginning of this year, and also moved house, and now I'm only about 30 minutes away from Levi, which is amazing.
Let's go.
So it's a lot more relaxed now and a lot easier to do the podcast. And on another thing, as we're getting started back into them, we want to get a lot more sort of quick and more conversational with them, and just make them really easy and lighthearted.
Definitely.
Because we realized that, especially towards the end there, as we started getting in person a lot more, that the podcast started getting a lot longer. Because
it got way too long.
We all love each other and we have a fantastic time talking, and we just really bounce off each other really well. But unfortunately, that led to a lot of superfluous stuff creeping in there. And that also sort of crept into some of the time management around outside the podcast as we were organizing it. It just made it sort of hard to be really kind of on the ball when it came to recording them. But
there was too many jokes happening before the podcast. We got to the podcast, did it, had jokes during the podcast afterwards, had more jokes, and nothing got done.
There were a lot of
Which
jokes.
is
Honestly, we should start a Youth Australia comedy channel just so we can put all of those.
Oh, the amount of stuff we probably just recorded and went, well, we can't put that in. Not because it was inappropriate, just because it was just so irrelevant.
It's just so irrelevant.
Needed.
Oh, I never do any editing like of the podcast content because I like to keep it really real. But I always edit a ton off the beginning and off the end.
Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of which, do you want to tell them about that and where we're going to go podcast-wise in the future? Because we don't edit anything anyway, so what are we going to do?
Right. So what we're planning for this podcast is we'd like to bring more guests on. That's the first thing we want to do. We really love the forum that we have here to talk to young Christian people and to sort of talk about things that young Christians might be struggling with, whether it's in their lives as Christians, whether it's questions about Christianity that they have. I know, like, for me, as I sort of started hitting that youth age group, that was when all the real questions started coming in of like, how do I trust the Bible? How do I, stuff like that. People really start asking those questions. And so we want to, during this time, bring on guests who really know what they're talking about in these areas and just really ask them questions so that you guys can listen to their amazing insight and hopefully be inspired and empowered by it, because that's what we're about here. We want to empower the next generation.
That's it. Also, a lot of our more popular podcast episodes have been our testimony series. So we want to get some more people in and share their testimony, maybe give a word on how you guys can get help in those different ways as well. Like, we've got a lot of good people at our church and they might not want to do it, but some do. And we'll be glad to have them on, which will be really good.
100%, 100%.
The other thing is, Joel was saying we don't really edit anything anyway. So we thought, why record when we can just do it live?
Yes.
So yeah, it's going to be not straight away because we need to kind of sort it all out. But we're thinking of maybe just streaming the podcast live. That way, you guys have got a chance to ask questions that we can answer straight away, live. We don't really have a set plan we go down anyway. We've stopped doing that since like episode 3. So we're always going to be happy to answer or go off track to answer the question that you need that moment. And yeah, as I said, not sure when that's happening. Hopefully soon. The other thing is we're not going to be on Zoom calls all the time because that's just no fun.
That's no fun.
Yeah, we're going to try and meet up. Still sorting out location-wise. We have an idea, just need to kind of figure out if it's going to work or not. I'll be keen if it does. But yeah, we'll also get back onto that one later on. But for now, we're going to go to Zoom calls. I had a guy tell me last night he wasn't a big fan of the Zoom call episodes because there was just there's less communication. But we're going to do what we can for now because we're committed now. We're going to just smash it out.
Fair enough. 100%. And yeah, in terms of going live, we'd really like your guys' feedback on that.
Definitely.
If you want to chuck it in the podcast chat on Discord or comment underneath the video on whatever platform that you're watching this on, and just let us know what you think about us streaming it, whether that's something you'd be interested in. Also, what sort of time that you'd be interested in for a stream. Because obviously it's always going to be recorded and we're going to
it'll be uploaded still
for everyone to listen to, but we'd really like to build some more engagement with you guys because we love you and we love hearing from you, and we'd love to do that more on a sort of live basis. So we'd really like to find a time that works for you guys. So please let us know on whatever platform you're on.
Yeah. That's the other thing. What platform we're going off? Who knows yet? Could be Discord live. It could be YouTube live, Twitch. I don't know.
All three at once.
All three at once? Yeah, who knows? Anyway, I think we should get into what we're going to talk about today. kind of a relevant subject for us, and that's burning out. Just felt
Yes.
like, because we were talking last week about what we're going to do, and I said I think the first one needs to be, first of all, explaining what's happening, what's gone wrong, but also burning out just seems very relevant to what's happened with us. Now, we don't actually have any set questions this week about what we can answer about burning out. Normally we have a few questions we can kind of discuss, but we haven't really got anything. So I think I'll just make a statement now. Joe, you can kind of bounce off that statement and we'll see where it goes. So yeah, burning out, as we've been talking for the last, how long now? 10 minutes or so. We've really dropped the ball in our upload times, our podcast ability in general. And it was just because I think we all had so much going on and we just got exhausted where we just couldn't find the time to be motivated enough to put a decent episode out. And regards to the podcast, that happens a lot for other people, not just in, media, things like this. It's church as well. God, Christianity, they burn out. They don't have that drive anymore because they've pushed themselves too hard. And it's been a real struggle for them. It's something I've always kind of thought about. It's that scary thought of, hey, maybe this isn't a fun thing to think about, but you always need to have that thought of, don't push yourself, otherwise I'm going to burn out. Like my overall goal is for starting youth ministries, starting my own youth group one day. I've been told that the average youth group leader lasts about 3 years before burning out, which, in perspective, the average for a cop's about 10 years. Think about all that a cop has to do, or a youth leader. 3 years, 10 years. That's a bit of a crazy comparison. Yeah, Joel, do you have anything about that? Or
So yes, I have had many experiences of burning out. I'm fairly ADD, and I'm also fairly compulsive when it comes to jumping on projects that I think are interesting and that I'd really like to do, without really looking at where I sit in terms of my time management and how everything is fitting together. So definitely burnt out around the podcast, and I think that happens. It happens to so many people across so many different areas of life. And I think it's especially common in churches a lot of the time. People are often encouraged a lot to serve in churches or to serve in their youth group, which is absolutely fantastic. And you should absolutely do it. It is brilliant. The issue is that occasionally there isn't the support there to help people when they're struggling with managing that time. And it can be a really big time commitment. Speaking from just like the perspective of Youth Australia in terms of the podcast, I mean, for me, we spend probably an hour and a half to 2 hours per 30-minute podcast on recording.
Yeah, definitely.
And then beyond that, there's probably another at least 2 hours of me for editing, comping it together. I don't do much video editing, but I do quite a bit of audio processing to get our voices sounding good, especially when we're live and there's more like room noise and stuff over Zoom. It's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So, that's a significant chunk of time, which is great when you have that time. But when things pile up, it can get really difficult. So, yeah, I think when you're sort of interested in serving, there is a fine balance between giving yourself to whatever you're trying to do, and then also making sure that you have enough of yourself to give. Because it's all well and good to jump into something and go, I'm so keen, and to put in your absolute best effort. But if that's a long-term project and your absolute best effort only lasts 3 weeks, then you're not gonna reach the end.
Definitely. That's a good answer. I think that's actually like really important to think about is when you commit yourself to one of these projects you want to do, don't think about the next few weeks. Think about the long-term goal as well. I think that's where we kind of struggle with Australia podcast-wise anyway, because we didn't have that what's going to happen in the future. It's just what's going to happen in the next few weeks. That's going to be good. And because of that, we didn't really plan ahead where we could go, hey, we need to keep going because this is coming up soon. Or we need to keep going because this is coming up. We just kind of took it day by day. And there's nothing wrong with taking stuff day by day, except when, if you're putting a lot of effort into it, you need to plan heaps more. And we've put a lot of planning into every podcast episode. We don't so much plan what we're going to talk about, but we're going to plan, is what we're going to talk about relevant?
Yep.
Like today, definitely kind of relevant. We dropped the ball. We're going to have to talk about it.
100%.
But I've got a list on my second monitor here of all the stuff we've got planned. And we've got so much planned here, but we never had this before. We had a few questions we could answer previously, and it didn't do us much because we just kept dropping the ball there. So we're just planning ahead is definitely handy for that burning out phase. You don't want to burn out. Plan it so you don't.
Yeah.
I struggled a bit last year because all that COVID hit and youth ministry. I was a youth leader at my church and I stopped going for a bit, mainly because of COVID and family issues. I didn't want to risk it. But that really kind of threw me off youth ministry for a bit, where I was just like, oh, I mean, it's kind of exhausting going there every Friday. Why should I? And then this year, I've just kind of picked it back up and went, no, I needed to do this because this is something I want to do. Long-term goal, I want this, and this to happen. And I've been going every week since. I've only missed a few because I've been sick and stuff. And it's definitely helped me a bit planning ahead.
100%. Yeah. If you've got that focus on that long-term achievement, then it's easier to run the race,
Definitely.
I mean, but Paul talks about that for the Christian walk, is that idea of running the race so that you can win the prize of righteousness. And you actually have to last the race, You can't,
that's good.
You can't be a sprinter. You can't burn out after the first 100 meters. I mean, Jesus even talks about this in the parable of the wheat. And he talks about the seed that there's a seed that when the struggles of this life, and it's the thorns, the struggles of this life and the pressures of the world come on and they drown it out. They choke the seed and the seed can't grow. That's a really sad fact for a lot of Christians, especially as they're making that sort of transition from youth to starting to get out into the adult world, where they're sort of going into uni and they're going into these areas of like a lot more responsibility. It's pretty crazy, the sort of jump up from, I'm at high school to now I'm working and, I'm at uni, I have to pay my uni fees. And, if you have to move away from home, I have to move away from home. That jump in responsibility is massive. And what that can lead to for a lot of people is the struggles of this life and the pressures of this world choking their Christianity, because they put the focus on everything else. But, I firmly believe that Christianity, your walk with God, should be the main focus. And if whatever you're doing, even if it is something that is Christian, even if you're running a youth ministry, even if you're a worship leader at church, if what you're doing is actually taking away from your personal walk with God, then that's something, I mean, the Bible talks figuratively about that kind of stuff when it says, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. And what that's saying is, like, take the parts of your life that are not conducive to your walk with God, that are causing you to burn out, that are causing you to ignore that time that you're spending with God. Get rid of them.
Definitely. Yeah, that's good. I think that was a pretty decent answer there, to be honest. That's all we really need. I think that's a pretty decent answer for that whole
100%.
point. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about it, or
We'd love to.
I don't. You've answered that really well. So,
oh, thank you. We'd love to know your guys' experiences with this.
True.
Because I know for myself, being in churches and other, particularly volunteer organizations, people are very prone to burning out because of some of the way that those things are set up. And we'd love to know more about your experiences with that so that we can maybe think a bit more about these issues and how maybe we can address them in Youth Australia. Because we certainly don't want our mods and other people to experience this. We want to offer them support and help so that they can ultimately support us in the long run.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Definitely. Right. Yeah. I think I might just end this one with quick prayer and we'll call it there, shall we?
100%.
Rightio. Dear Lord, thank you that we can come back to this awesome podcast. Thank you that we can chat again and just honor you through it all. Lord, I just pray that we think down the line for the long run, that we don't burn out again, that we stay strong and just keep honoring you through it all. Lord, I just pray for anyone listening to this right now that they get something from the podcast and they find what they're looking for in you as well. Lord, in the long run, we always wanted to honor you and put you first. And I pray that you continue to help us put you first through it all. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week. We really appreciate you jumping on back as we're getting started on this new journey. We're super excited to be here. In case this is your first time being here or you haven't been here for a while, you can contact us at our email, which is contact@Youth Australia. Our Instagram is @Youth Australia 2020. We also have our website, youthaustralia.xyz. Our Discord is on the website and also will be linked in the description.
We'll link it below.
And you can find this podcast wherever podcasts are podcasted. So
what's that? We've got Spotify, YouTube,
Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, all the big names, SoundCloud. You can also find us on anchor.fm at Youth Australia. So wherever you'd like to find the podcast, links will be in the description and you can contact us. Please send us questions. We love to read them. They give us so much inspiration and we love to help you guys. And like we said earlier, we have got some fantastic guests that we have lined up. So we love to get your questions so that we can pass those on to them because they know a hell of a lot more about this stuff than we do.
Yeah, that's it. Rightio. Well, I think that's it for us today, but we'll see you next time. Catch you later.
Catch you guys later.